ready for a Dharma request. There he is, the official Dharma requester.
恭敬大德三敬，唯识法会，悉一切众生，专妙法轮，教导我们如何了生离苦得乐，速证无上。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suche doye olahudi samyao samputoshe.
Namo saranto suchedoye alahadi samya sanputosye.
Okay, let's all do it together. 无
无上
上
甚
甚
深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿觉如来真实义。
Together, supreme and wondrous Dharma, and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Excellent. Welcome, everybody, to our Saturday night Sutra lecture in Berkeley, California, and in Gold Coast, Queensland. We are online, virtually gathered here to look into the Flower Garland Sutra, particularly the 10 grounds chapter, and inside that, particularly the 7th ground. And let's begin by invoking spiritual presence, and we do that by chanting first in Chinese the name of the sutra and the assembly of spiritual beings who guard it. And I'm going to take a bell and a fish to do that. Here we go. Namo Da Fang Dang Fo Da Yen Jin Da Yen Hai Fo Da Yen Jin Da Yen Hai Hui Fo Bu Sa Namo Da Fang Dang Fo Da Yen Jin Da Yen Hai Hui Fo Bu Sa Namo Da Fang Dang Fo Da Yen Jin Da Yen Hai Hui Fo Bu Sa Namo Da Fang Dang Fo Da Yen Jin Da Yen Hai Hui Fo Bu Sa Namo Da Fang Dang Fo Da Yen Jin Da Yen Hai Hui Fo Bu Sa Namo Da Fang Dang Fo Da Yen Jin Da Yen Hai Hui Fo Bu Sa. And down here we find the section that we left off on, with, which is right. Okay, right here. This is it right there. This is our first. Let's see here. Shengwan Xinjie. Be cheerful. There. That's our phrase right there. Okay, now the way we proceed in our text is we first read the Chinese aloud, then we look at the English, and depending upon how dense the ideas are, we explain it right away or take a bigger chunk. In this case, we're going to do it step by step, sentence by sentence. Okay, everybody found the spot? Is that big enough on the screen? Go Dama.
Go da. Whoa, this is really loud.
Go Da. Good. I heard that. Good. Okay. Who is our computer engineer tonight? Is it Locke or Jerry or
Looks like it's
Yunlin?
Locke and Yunlin. They have two computer engineers.
Okay. So if folks have questions online, please type them in the chat box or speak them out, and I'll answer them as they come up or discuss them. Okay, so I'm going to put my palms together and read our first line here. Here we go. 入无量必之佛 所成就. First one, English. Big here. Gee, here we go. It's this line right there. He engages with accomplishments of Pratyeka Buddhas beyond measuring. Context, Bodhisattva, awakened being, aspiring to progress into his or her vows. And the way you make progress with your vows is with your practices. You get better at what you do, at what you want to do, what you promised you're going to do. And at this level of practice, there are lots of other spiritual beings who want to help you do that. So the Bodhisattva on the seventh ground is getting the help of spiritual beings, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas to understand things he didn't understand on his own. But actually, that's what the sutra says. You get aided. And the reason why is he's not doing selfish things. He's helping. He's ending suffering. And if you put that in a bigger context, it sounds like there are forces for goodness in the world. Isn't that interesting? Sounds like superhero talk, Marvel Comics. I believe it's true. And the sutras suggest that as long as there's anybody around who has that thought that suffering should end, then the flame is lit. There are worlds where that flame is out, and they cycle through too. It's not permanently dark, but bodhisattvas, apparently, according to what I understand, go to places where the light is dim, particularly dim, to keep it going. For example, let's take our world. There's a story, talk about a superhero, Earth Store, Earth Treasury Bodhisattva, Dizang Pusa, he goes to the darkest place, the most yin, which is the hells as described by the sutras. He goes to the hells to bring beings back. So there's the heart of a superhero, but we don't have to wait for Marvel Comics. We can find it right in the sutras. The bodhisattvas strive, they aspire to end suffering. And certainly people with lots of blessings also suffer. But there's a bodhisattva spirit that goes to where the suffering is most acute to do the work, to do their work of ending suffering. So here's a bodhisattva, seventh stage, seventh ground, wants to do that, wants to help, wants to repair the world, tikkun olam, wants to make the world a better place than he or she found it. So they go to the hells. Seventh stage bodhisattva, look, what is he doing? He is going to a place where suffering is almost over. Pratyeka, that word right there, Sanskrit word, probably should be italicized. Pratyeka means two things. Here's a factoid for you. Here's a Buddhist term, a technical term. Let's get our notes up here. Gee whiz. Pratyeka Buddha. Here it is. Sanskrit has two meaning, two translations. Solitary Buddha, or one enlightened by conditions, sometimes said one enlightened to conditions. Okay, so does that help? Is that like, that doesn't explain it. Pratyeka Buddha is translated as both things, differently. Jin Chuan-Shi, what is the current DRBU knowledge? Is it one enlightened by conditions or one enlightened to conditions?
I think it's two conditions, but Mr. Rounds is here.
David is here.
Yeah. Do you have a comment, Mr. Rounds? Not two. And by not two, I don't mean bu'ar. I mean not enlightened two.
Not two. It is non-dual. Yes. So by?
Enlightened by conditions. Yeah.
Okay. By conditions. There we go. See, somebody knew. See, that's why we work in committee. 集思广益, you gather wisdom. So, here's the idea. Step back. We've got in the what are called the 10 Dharma realms, right? This is Master Hua brought this to our attention. It was one of his literary creations. He wrote a series of poems. Remember, Shifu was so happy when he wrote those. They came in one night, and he talked about how he just kept writing, and the poems came to him. Oh, now that I brought it up, I'm not going to be able to do the Pratyeka Buddha poem. I know it's like sleeping alone on solitary peaks, 独死光冕 or something like that. Somebody got it?
I think I have it. I don't. The only reason is because we were just working on it this afternoon with Mr. Rounds. We were translating it as, well, it's a little bit different. I think sages awake to causation, sleep alone on solitary or on lone mountain peaks. The spring flowers bloom, autumn leaves fall through 12 interconnected links. Well, we slightly modified it, but that was the verse. 独觉圆觉现神. Then it's 都眠孤风, and then third verse, 春花秋谢 谢 and 12因缘 12连结 something like that. Sorry, my Chinese is not so good.
Okay, we'll give you 5 points for that one. Okay.
4.
4 points, yeah. If you could like smooth it out a little bit, we give you 5 points. Okay, well, gee, that's timely. Now, we didn't plan this in advance. I didn't set this up with a phone call to know. This just actually happened. Good. So, there we go. Great minds work in single gutter, right? Single track. So, Master Hua gave us the 10 Dharma realms poems. The 10 Dharma realms are not beyond a single thought. 十法界不离一念心 is called. And it's his creation. It's his literary creation. And he liked that. Shifu was, I wouldn't say proud. He's not proud of it. But he used it a lot and felt like it, because it's so concise and it's so clear. And we have a vision of Buddhist cosmology, right? And one thought creates all of these, which is truly miraculous and inconceivable. But there it is. So, 10 Dharma realms, 10 places where beings coexist. And the first 6 are the familiar samsara, paths of samsara, destinies we call them, or destinations almost. They're called the six spokes of the turning wheel. So Master Hua described those as places where the wind of karma blows us, from the hells to the ghosts to the animals. And then there's questions about the order of the next 3, which are called 3 wholesome, and it's humans, asuras or asuras, and devas. What do people argue about is whether asuras are higher than humans or lower than humans. So devas at the top, humans next, asuras next. 3 wholesome rebirths. But you're reborn there by your karmic bank account, your karmic balance. Then we've got animals realm, ghosts realm, and hell's realm. 6 paths. Okay, got that. The one that is lesser known are the 4 sages rebirths. And mind you, you're not born there. You cultivate there. The 4 paths of reincarnation that make the top layer of the 10 Dharma realms are all beyond birth and death. Check that out. All of those 4 destinations are cultivated there by people who have a profound amount of samadhi at their control when they cultivate. And they go from lesser to greater. We start at the top. The greatest is the Buddha. Okay, the Buddha is the number 10 out of 10, is number 4 out of 4. So the Buddha clearly doesn't return. The Buddha has entered nirvana without remainder. Okay, that's the highest level. Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Come a step down. So number 9 out of 10, number 3 out of 4 is what? Bodhisattva's realm. And bodhisattvas come back in, we know, 53 different stages. And our sutra that we're studying right this minute is the place to go to find out all the details of that, those 53. Now it gets interesting. Pratyeka Buddhas is number 8 out of 10, number 3 out of 4, or number 2 out of 4, sorry. And it's the solitary Buddha or one enlightened by conditions. And Shifu used to always give us these 2. Why was that important? Well, it was important. We're not, what's the subtle difference between a solitary Buddha and one enlightened by conditions? Has to do with what? It has to do with what they cultivate as they practice towards that state. And okay, let's stop right there. What's fascinating to me about that is how spiritually, psychically active these Dharma methods that we practice are. Not only Dharma methods, but everything we do brings about a result. And they always link, when they describe a Pratyeka Buddha, they always link, as our verse did, the 12 conditioned links. Now, I just garbled down what you said, Jin Chuanshi. Sages, correct, can you correct me here?
Sages. So if we want, Mr. Rounds and myself worked on, I have the file here. Although it of course can be improved, but it says sages mindful of causation. The reason we're trying to get the we were trying to get the right verse with iambic pentameter or tetrameter.
That's good.
So
we want
complex.
Sages mindful of causation.
Sleeping alone on mountain peaks. Next one. So it's the next line. So sleeping starts the next line. Sleeping alone on mountain peaks. Seeing spring blooms and autumn's decay. They know and autumn's decay and autumn with a apostrophe S.
Yeah.
They know the 12 dependent links.
Da-dum, 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 da-dum. Great.
So the Chinese goes yuan jue.
Wait. Okay, they know the 12 dependent link. Okay, sages, there's a comma after sages?
No.
Sages, mindful of causation. Sleeping alone on mountain peaks, semicolon?
Period, or if you think semicolon's good, this is hot off the press. We were just working on this afternoon.
Right.
2 hours ago.
Okay. seeing spring's blooms and autumn's decay. Capital S spring and capital A autumn?
No, they're lowercase.
Sure?
I believe so, right, Mr. Rounds?
David, capital or lowercase?
Spring and autumn. No, he says no.
Okay, comma,
No capital.
they know the 12 dependent links. Okay, so for the sake of purity and completeness, give me the Chinese.
Okay, the Chinese goes 圆觉圣贤. Okay, sorry for my tones and my pronunciation.
Wait for the computer here to catch up to us.
Okay.
Uh-oh, there we go. It's happening, good. Okay,
圆觉
right, 圆觉
圣贤.
圣，等一下，圣贤 yes.
Yeah.
Oops. 贤 yeah.
孤峰都眠.
孤峰独眠 Okay.
Who is lonely
Shifu
but
would
who-
say, why haven't you memorized this?
孤
孤峰
都
峰
Yeah, that's right.
独
Yeah,
独眠
yeah. 眠
Yeah.
Sleeping.
Yes.
Yep. 春花秋谢.
春花秋谢春花秋谢 Yes.
Yep. 12连环.
12连 which 连
That's right.
here?
First one.
连
环.
Juan.
That's what. Yep. Perfect.
How about that? Gee whiz, we did it. Okay, good. So here we are. Let's circle back. We are translating the Avatamsaka Sutra, the seventh ground out of 10 grounds. We're looking at the Bodhisattva's description. We're looking at the sutra's description of what a seventh ground Bodhisattva does. And what he does, take us back to our text, is he engages with the accomplishments of Pratyeka Buddhas beyond measuring. Now, David's ears, maybe having heard this for the first time, are going to prick right up where he hears this engages with. What are we talking about? We've got 20, it's rare for the Avatamsaka, usually it's 10 things. We have 20 rules. At the seventh stage, the Bodhisattva ru, like enter, ru. But I didn't want to be satisfied with having him enter accomplishments of Pratyeka Buddhas and enter the thing. So we worked on, we've got all of these options for ru, to enter, to master, to merge with, to immerse into, to embody, to identify with, to integrate with, to engage with, hold on here, to interact with, to absorb, to encounter, to meet, a stranger in a strange land, to grok. And the one that actually works best, but we don't dare use, is to get. He gets it. It's very descriptive. So we talked about this in depth, or certainly at length. I don't know how deep, but at length. And we realized that Ru, as the sutra describes it, indicates a gradual deepening of ability, of connection with. So Ru here, to say master, kind of indicates closure, it's over. But the Ru here is much more, becomes, identifies with, becomes more and more familiar with, until it's identical with. So he gets it. So we had, deeply enter sutra treasury wisdom like sea, Shen Ru Jing Zang Zhi Wei Ru Hai. You enter a sutra treasury, it's kind of like you go into the closet. You go into the storeroom. So that's not right. You excel in, you engage with, we pretty much discarded my choice, which was engage.
Can I suggest?
But it's like that. So anyway, I don't know if David wants to make a comment, but this is what we're about.
I was just looking at the Sanskrit, And the actual word is avatar. Avatar, which is the one for video games. You have an avatar,
Right.
but in Indian culture, it's the God descending on earth, coming to
Right.
the Krishna becoming an avatar. And so one of the definitions of avatar is embodiment, which I actually thought I saw you have embody there, and I never thought about that way for Ru. But if you think of actually
Correct.
taking the principles and making it physical form and like incarnate, it's embody actually might be an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, it's almost like to incorporate with, embody, incorporate. You become one body with. To embody. Yeah, right. And because a body is not a dead, static thing, it grows, it changes, it morphs, it develops. It's pretty good. So, okay, so that's where we are. Now, what is he doing? We only have, we've done 17. We've got 3 to go. He embodies the accomplishments of Pratyeka Buddhas beyond measuring. Beyond measuring is the refrain also. Ru, Wu Liang, Shama, Shama, Shama. So, we're back here. Solitary Buddha, one enlightened by conditions. By what? By the 12 conditions co-arising. The 12 links of conditioned causation. Those are the conditions that this bodhisattva wakes up to or by. That's how he gets enlightened. Solitary Buddha refers to out there on the peaks alone. You hermit, essentially. So because of this, we only gave you 3 out of 4. The first of the 4 sages' rebirths, or destinies or destinations, and the 7th of the 10 is the arhat, is the sound, the voice hearer, the shravaka. So that's a familiar arhat. And mind you, an arhat has an awesome accomplishment. They have ended desire. They've meditated long enough that their eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind are very mellow, very pliant, very gentle, not hard and thorny and out to kick butt. That phrase that has now become pretty much standard dictation anymore. Kick butt. If you ever had your butt kicked, it's horrifying. It hurts and it's embarrassing and is violent. But we kick butt meaning exert. That only means be vigorous anymore. So these sages, their 6 senses are so calm that they have stopped kicking butt in any way. And they are mellow, and you try to entice them with pleasures. It's okay, they're not going to move. If you try to frighten them with threats, they're okay, they're not going to move. And they can wake up. Now, arhats go through the different stages. The 4 stages of arhatship is still only number 7. That's only level number 7 out of 10 Dharma realms. You take one more level of profundity and you get to number 8, and you've got the Pratyeka Buddha, which can either be a solitary Buddha or one enlightened by conditions. And the arhat, number 7, cultivates the 4 Noble Truths. It's funny how these always link to a Dharma door. I launched into that and didn't finish it. The idea that these methods are very active. If you take the 4 Noble Truths and work on them really well, you can end birth and death and realize the fruition of sagehood, which is the arhat's path. The voice hearer, not sound hearer, voice hearer, shravaka. And in the Theravada, in the Pali, when you chant with the Thai forest monks, they chant the Sāvaka Sangha. That's in there. It's kind of a refrain in their chanting. The Shravaka Sangha, the Sangha of voice hearers. And I remember having a big awakening, this sudden, when we were in Thailand, and I was traveling with Ajahn Pasano and also Ajahn Sucitto, our Dharma brothers. And here was this story We were. It was Ajahn Chah's 14th anniversary of his nirvana. So 14 years, and they're still doing it, I think. After Ajahn Chah had entered nirvana for 14 years, all of his disciples came together at Wat Apong, I believe, or Wat Pavoni Vase to celebrate. And not to celebrate, to acknowledge, right? And people were looking at my robes, and the color of my robe is very similar, color of our robes. You can see the monks with us. Our robe now is very much the color of a Thai forest monk's robe, not all that different. And this one elder, he saw me, and I guess he was kind of a character in their larger sangha, so he decided to take me on, and he wanted to ask about whether I really believed in the Bodhisattva path and things like that. And maybe I got up on the wrong side of the bed or something, but I came back at him and started to use just a spoonful of Avatamsaka Dharma and Prajna Dharma, where they talk about, the Wai Dao and the Ar Chung, where it's the two vehicles having distinctly a lesser accomplishment and somehow being a moral failing as well, that you leave living beings out there suffering. I didn't put it that way, but I didn't just smile and nod, and let him be a bully in ignorance. I came back with a Dharma answer, and was talking about, the 12 links of conditioned arising and the paramitas, and he was shaking his head. And clearly, in his mind, this was not what the Buddha taught. There was nothing beyond nirvana, extinguishing samsara. That was it. And he was so strong in his unwillingness to allow any other. It's as if nothing happened after the Pali teachings were collected. There was no Sanskrit. The Lotus Sutra didn't exist. The Avatamsaka didn't exist. The Shrangama didn't exist. The Prajna Sutras didn't exist. And it occurred to me suddenly, bong, this is what's called a Ding Xing Shangman, a Shravaka whose nature is fixed. There are fixed nature Shravakas, sound hearers. And the sutras talk about them. The Nirvana Sutra does. And they're the ones who marched out of the Buddha's assembly in the Lotus Sutra because they couldn't accept the fact that the Buddha taught expediently to different natures. And here I was in Thailand, face to face with a Shravaka who had, mind you, this was a pure monk, right? Someone who had followed the teachings and had worked very hard in his cultivation at ending desire and ending suffering. And he knew the Four Noble Truths and could explain them in beautiful ways. But that was it, And so as we hear these 10 Dharma realms about sound hearers, now this is one step above the Pratyeka Buddhas who see further than the sound hearers, but they still have not emptied out dharmas. They empty out their self, the self. They see through that construction, but dharmas are still real. And so they want to transcend this body's death. They transcend the birth and death of the body. They don't get to the mind, right? So that was a big awareness for me. It was, wowee, look at that. There's somebody who, in the Buddha's family, completely does not want to know about anything else. Nothing beyond that. So, Pratyeka Buddhas. This is the next step up from that. But still, from the point of view of the Bodhisattva, this is what's called a arsham, two vehicles, right? And you always say it down your nose, arsham, right? Meaning a lesser creature somehow. And having met these men, at least the Shravaka side, they're people you want to bow to, definitely. But their natures are different. Just the way the nature of a carnivore is somehow really different than the nature of a herbivore. if it's okay, if you have to eat, if you have to kill to eat, I'm on Facebook and on Instagram. I've got a fascinating African photography camp that takes people out on photo tours of Africa, photo safaris. It's a resort down, I don't know, Tanzania somewhere. And the photos that come out, they're built this is located in a place where the animals are a few steps away, and right from their deck, the lions come up and they don't run away. And so the other day, there was a photograph from this resort posted of a lion clan, and they know the names of all the lions. They're really devoted naturalists, and they knew the lion, and the lion had brought down an aging male buffalo, a water buffalo, and the picture was of the lion with his muzzle all red and gory, completely red. And the next post was a video taken of the lion with his head down in the stomach of his trophy, pulling chunks of meat away. And somehow the reality of a meat eater came home. What it's like when you bring down your food and have to tear its body apart and chew it in order to get your nutrition, and just seeing a lion that's so cute, oh, look cute, big kitty cat, right? Vegetarians and even vegans, we kind of were removed from that process. Going shopping in a grocery store where the fillet comes out wrapped in plastic in a white cardboard tray, white plastic tray. That's a different perspective also. So here was this honest lion ripping the flesh of the buffalo. And the Pratyeka Buddha, okay, well, he's pure sage. And he's got these two perspectives. From the point of view of the Bodhisattva, Pratyeka Buddha is just one of the two vehicle cultivators, far inferior to the Bodhisattva because of a shorter vision. Both Shravakas, the sound hearers, voice hearers, and the solitary Buddhas want to get out. They want to end birth and death. That's the goal. Whether or not living beings are removed from suffering, transformed, they don't ask, according to the Bodhisattva path. From the point of view of us, let's say, beginning meditators, who are considering eating a little less meat, who are just, moving towards the precepts, maybe step by step, a Shravaka and a Pratyeka Buddha are awesome accomplishments. Incredible. To be able to end desire, to be able to be in the midst of the world and not have your senses go out and want to engage with the flavors of the world. Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome, right? So we got the story. I've gone into I've been digressing a bit to get to our Pratyeka Buddha. But here's that notion. Two things. Solitary Buddha, Shifu's verse has it, sleeping on mountain peaks, one enlightened by conditions is watching the 12 links. By cultivating those 12 links, it can take you there. By cultivating the 6 paramitas, guess what? The psychoactive result of that is going to the Bodhisattva path. By cultivating the fullness of wisdom and blessings, we become a Buddha. So, okay, end of impassioned sermon about meat-eating lions in Africa. How do we get to lions in Africa? Heng Sure, was that your? Okay, it's not. All right. Somehow we got to bloody muzzle lions from Pratyeka Buddhas. I don't know how that. By way of, what was that?
May I ask a question?
Okay, you can interrupt my rant. Go ahead.
Yes, can I clarify one thing? You mentioned about a 定性声闻. Sounds healers' natures are fixed. So my question is, so those sound healer, for them, the Mahayana teaching don't ring the bells to their nature. But how this fixed nature was formed in the first place, that's my question. Can that fixed nature be changed?
Okay. Oh, I'm in deep doo-doo, huh? Okay, so I'm gonna start you back from your first sentence. Your translation that sound hearers' natures are fixed. No, that's wrong. And that's not complete. Okay, it's not that it's wrong. It needs further expansion. Which what? Let me say it all over again. It's that I had heard in Master Hua's discussions, occasionally this phrase came up. Take a look here. Ding, Xing, Sheng, Wen. This is also a class in Mandarin. Okay, Ding, Xing, Sheng, Wen. Word for word, it would be fixed, determined hyphen nature voice hearer. This is a intensely technical Buddhist language. A determined nature. The nature of this voice hearer is already been determined. It's not going to change. Okay. Now, we'd say fixed, in BTTS we'd say fixed nature sound hearer. Okay, what is that? This is different from voice hearers' natures are determined. Not at all. And why you don't want to say that is because this can develop a prejudice against Theravada cultivators, which I think would be a mistake. That's leading us into factionalism in Buddhism, which we want to get away from. Let me say it again. I met one monk in Thailand who, because he decided to put me down as an airy-fairy believer in the Mahayana, which didn't really exist, I probed a little bit. I came back. I didn't, as a guest, one thing I could have done would have been going, like that, pretend I didn't understand. I thought, no, that's wimping out. I came back, and actually, I had been in robes longer than he had, so which he couldn't accept either, So it's like, no, it's not right of you to be so rude as to attack your guest and try to belittle their practice, especially when he's been in robes longer than you have. So anyway, I came back and asked him some questions, and based on his answers, I realized that this particular monk didn't have the capacity within Buddhism to hear anything other than what he knew. Now, so that one individual may have been what Sherful referred to as a fixed nature sound hearer, determined nature voice hearer. Maybe, right? That's it. So Iwan, that's my clarification of your statement. Now, when you go talk to Ajahn Amaro, for example, and Ajahn Amaro is interested in understanding all kinds of Buddhism as well as all kinds of Christianity and Islam and scientific rationalism, you realize, oh, here is a Theravada practitioner who's in his Pali tradition celebrates Shravakas. He's particularly open-natured, So that corrected your first statement. Okay, now, can somebody who is a Ding Xing Sheng Wen ever change? How did they get that way? How did they change? I have no idea. I don't know. So, I've just traced, thank you, your question traced my trail, how I got to African lions from Arhats. It's that. What is fixed? What is fluid? Not fixed. When I look at the lion in the picture from Africa, I realized that here's a creature who, in order to feed his body, has to rip meat off another living creature, you know. And it's not done neatly with a knife and fork or chopsticks. It's like, you have to sink your teeth and rip it, you know. It's pretty organic. And that's to say that lion should become a vegetarian, you know, it's like, it's not going to happen. I have a kookaburra who comes to visit, and if I feed him something that doesn't look like meat to him, he just spits it out. That's not food. You know, he's got one thing that he wants to eat. So there's a fixed nature, because they're not thinking, like Ali the kookaburra doesn't think, I wonder whether maybe I want to eat this grape, you know, or this carrot. No thinking. That's not food. That's a fixed nature. Okay. Does the Shravaka, does he have a fixed nature, and how did he get there? I don't know, but I think it's, quote, natural, meaning conditions brought it that way. It's as natural as sunlight breaking through the clouds is natural, as rain falling from the clouds. It's like that. And I didn't know they existed before I met that monk, who clearly didn't want to learn from me. Yeah, I had nothing to teach him at all, you know. What I was saying was not Buddha Dharma, because he had learned it one way, and that was it. And so, I don't know, does that help? Does that talk to your question, Yuhan? What do you think? I punted. I didn't give you satisfaction. Are you satisfied?
Because you in this beginning of the lecture, Dharma masters brought up the 10 Dhamma wrong, not away from one single mind. So from this perspective, that there shouldn't be this determined nature things there, because it's fluent, it's constant change. So how this determined nature?
Yeah. So that's right. That's the way I see it too. My question would be, what is a 定性生闻? That's a good question. And all I can do is offer my experience. My question mark. Question.
Sure.
Let's see. Yeah, there we go. What is a 定性生闻? That's Yuan's question. How are they made, and do they ever change? Good question. Okay.
Because we're just reading the Lotus Sutra. It talks actually quite a lot about this particular topic.
Okay.
And
Yep.
If I were to say, cultivating the Four Noble Truths doesn't make you fixed nature. But it seems like the fixed nature comes, or the determined nature comes from arrogance. It comes from thinking that this is it and there's nothing more. And so you close yourself off from any other possibilities. But if you take the Four Noble Truths as your practice, and then you continue to want to learn, then you're not fixed nature. So for instance, you can become a sound hearer disciple, a voice hearer, and then continue on the path, because you know this was just one step. But even interesting enough, in the sutra, the Buddha says that these fixed nature voice hearers or sound hearers, they go off to nirvana, and later he will actually manifest there in that nirvana to teach them, so that over time they'll make the Bodhi resolve as well, because it's just a transformation he gave for them to, because that was their mind at that time. So he tries to teach them later as well. But for those who are open to being able to learn more, he teaches them more. So he calls them basically arrogant. He says they're arrogant. They think they've attained what they haven't really attained. You know, they're just overweening pride. They have overweening pride.
Okay, so what I get from that is it's a blend of things. It's the same old nature that is potential, you know, it's the same old, single thought that can produce anything, all 10 dharma, but it's mixed in with an affliction. Arrogance is an affliction. So it's right here in our seventh ground, our seventh stage, we're going to experience more talk about that. because the Bodhisattva, even at the end of the seventh ground, comes to a crossroads. And at that crossroads, he can go in different directions. And if he goes in the wrong direction, he doesn't become a Ding Xing Shangwan. He becomes something else equally dead end. Right? He becomes what's called a, he enters a state called dull emptiness, we translate as, Wan Kong, which is a dead end as well. And but it's not the voice hearer, it's a different kind of state. And let me say one more thing about this. From the first of the Arhat stages on up to Buddhahood, these are all samadhis, and they're all kinds of nirvana. Isn't that interesting? I mean, who would guess that there were so many varieties of samadhi and so many different levels of nirvana? Okay, David would like to make a comment. Says,
I wonder whether
microphone.
Yeah, thanks. Could it be this Ding Xing Shengwan? Could it be a way of referring to Theravada monks and disciples who refuse to study the Mahayana? They're stubborn nature, and they don't want to become Mahayana disciples. So their nature is unyielding.
Okay, so David's comment was, could it be that these are, let's say, Theravada disciples, or that equivalent in the Buddhist time, who didn't want to study Mahayana? In the Lotus Sutra, that came to a boil. That was the scene when, 500 stood up and walked out, upset by what they had just heard. My question would be, when I met that monk in Thailand, what surprised me was it's almost like it wasn't volitional. What I got from David's question is they don't want to. What I got from the monk in Thailand was he couldn't. It wasn't a choice. It was that he knew what Buddhism was, and it was as if I were saying, black is white, white is black. You say, that's not, no. So maybe at a certain point, pride becomes truth if nobody challenges you or everyone else supports your view. I'm not sure, but it's a fascinating question. And let's bring it home. What does this question answer? It answers the question, what is my potential? What am I capable of? And in the Avatamsaka Sutra, what is the beating heart of the Avatamsaka Sutra is the Bodhi resolve, Bodhicitta, Putishin. And when you have made the Bodhi resolve, you have had a glimpse of what you are capable of. What is your potential? And that potential is identical with the Buddha. A voice hearer does not agree. A voice hearer says you are only able to, in suffering, to think that you could become like the Buddha, identical with the Buddha in awakening, from this point of view, would be arrogant. I beg your pardon? That's ridiculous. So they're kind of in the same position as a believer in a theistic religion who is a creature created by the Creator. That's kind of like the sheep saying, I want to be the shepherd. Not going to happen, right? According to that view. Bodhi resolve says, sorry, you haven't seen it all. There's no limit to what you can accomplish because your nature begins not obstructed. But you obstruct your nature. And so a Ding Xing Shravaka is someone whose nature is is it's kind of ironic because it's open to an extreme compared to the ordinary person, but it doesn't go beyond a certain point to allow Bodhisattva or Buddha potentials to arrive. From the Mahayanist point of view, that's just another covering. Now, what's interesting, if you want to trace it, get a copy of the 50 skanda demon states, the 50 demonic states from the skanda regions, from the Shurangama Sutra, and you find Dingxing Shengwen. You find these fixed natures who cannot imagine. They're awake to a huge extent, but not beyond it. Funny, huh? Isn't that interesting? Buddhism is so fascinating because it gives us these subtle distinctions. This is just a roadmap, or you could say it's a clinical description. This is kind of like, you know how doctors have their, what's the name of the doctor's manual that has all the diseases listed? There's a manual that doctors have that is the Bible of disease, and psychiatrists have one for mental illness, and the sutras are mapping the healthy mind step by step by step in all the different branches. That's amazing. Okay, having thoroughly investigated that one sentence, let us move on. Number 2, here we are right here. 入无量诸佛说神深智慧门令去入. He engages with the Buddha's speaking of the path to wisdom, which brings about, sorry, my mistake, English right here. There's the one. He engages with Buddha's explanation of gateways to profound wisdom, which allows beings to approach and master them beyond measuring. He engages with Buddha's explanations beyond measuring of gateways to profound wisdom, which allows beings to approach and master them. Notice the Chinese, the sentence begins with Ru, look at that. It ends with Ru, look at that. More accurately, it ends with Qu Ru. That's a compound. So let's look at the Chinese word by word first. That's our verb. He ru. He gets. He thoroughly groks. He understands thoroughly. What? Measureless, beyond measuring, plural Buddhas, shuo, teaching about. The Buddha's teaching on what? Shen shen zhi hui, really deep wisdom. Man, gateways to, entrances to, entrances into, and then a second verb, ling chu ru. And he allows them to chu. Chu here, notice it's got the radical for travel on it. And I think my understanding of that word is it's like you line up with it. You face off with it. It allows you to, it's a preliminary to the ru part, which is to get it completely. You chew. BTTS got one translation of that and stuck with it till death, which is tend towards. You tend towards. And I think that's a terrible translation because it sounds tentative. It sounds like questions. I'm going to tend towards wisdom, but I might not. I'm going to tend towards wisdom on the weekend, or maybe I'll go play tennis. Tend towards. No. It means that you are heading into your approach. You're facing off with. You fixed your direction. If you get your compass heading, that's chu. I know I'm going there. And then you ru, which is you get it. you embody it. So, here he goes. He gets measureless teachings from Buddhas on deep wisdom and allows you to master it. That's what the Bodhisattva does. So in other words, the Bodhisattva is a wisdom broker. You want to learn how to get to the Buddha's wisdom? Let's look into it. Okay? That's what he does. So he's a wisdom dispenser. He engages the Buddha's explanations of gateways to profound wisdom, or you can say, and then allows beings to approach and master them. I would do it differently again. It's not which allows, but then allows. So I'm going to listen to what the Buddhists say. I'm going to learn a lot of sutras. And then when you want to know how to approach wisdom, how to get there, let's talk about it. Okay? That's what bodhisattvas do. They teach wisdom after studying it themselves. Here we go. Short one. Ready? 入无量诸菩萨方便行. Short. He engages with bodhisattva's practice of expedient means beyond measuring. Chinese. 入 gets. He can handle. He knows how to deal with. 无量诸菩萨. Bodhisattvas beyond measuring in numbers. 方便行. Okay, boy, there is a library full of books written about those three words. 方便行. Expedient or skillful practices. In other words, how they teach. This bodhisattva, Ru, masters, embodies bodhisattva's amazing methods. Amazing methods of bodhisattvas. Fangbian heng. Fangbian means whatever works within the precepts and within the ability to hear, the ability to get. And the heng is practices, things, techniques. So this bodhisattva chews up and digests all these other bodhisattvas' ways of teaching. Very neat. I wish the English would say that, you know? English is engaging with practice of expedient means. That's too stiff. It's got to sound ecclesiastical and proper, but if we price ourselves out of the market by being proper and practical and ecclesiastical, we've lost something. I will now engage with the practice of expedient means. I'm now going to get how bodhisattvas teach beyond measuring. Okay, next and last. Ho, ho, ho. Last one. It also begins with Ru and ends with Ru. Here we go. Ready? 入无量诸佛所说大乘及成事令菩萨得入. He engages with bodhisattva's explanations of success in bringing together the deeds of cultivation of the great vehicle, which allow bodhisattvas to master them beyond measuring. He engages with Buddha's explanations of success in bringing together the deeds of cultivation of the great vehicle, and then allowing bodhisattvas to master them, and to do so beyond measuring. That does indeed make sense. Don't give up here. Look at the Chinese. Okay, starts with a Ru and ends with a Ru. Actually ends with the Ru. He gets Buddha's beyond measurings, speaking of, teaching about 大乘及成事. Mahayana, great vehicles, 及 accumulating, bringing together, collecting, amassing, gathering, Heng Sure, their deeds, the things they did, so that to enable bodhisattvas to get them. This bodhisattva gets them so other bodhisattvas can get them, can understand them fully, embody them, enter them. Okay, what is that about? Let me remind everybody and if you haven't, you should, in chapter 39, where Sudana meets Maitreya Bodhisattva. It's one of the ultimate moments in the entire epic of Ru Fa Jie, entering the Dharma realm, chapter 39. What happens is Sudana has been to, out of, I think, 49 teachers, maybe, or 50. There's Samantabhadra and then Manjushri, so 53, 52. So I think it's number 50. He goes to Maitreya, and it's fantastic when he meets him. Maitreya says, here he comes, he's done it, he's come all the way. You know, he's just one step away from success. And he sings a verse and then spoken word poetry, and Sudana comes back with another verse. And then the time comes, and I guess if I haven't looked at it for a while, I think Maitreya says, would you like to enter my jewel, my precious palace, the Vairochana's adorned Baologa, the adorned tower? And Sudana says, yeah, I would. You kidding me? Please? I would. I've been waiting for 12 years. Please. And so Maitreya, it says, goes, snaps his fingers, and the door opens, and Sudana goes in. And that's when he becomes a Buddha. That's his awakening. But it doesn't stop there. It describes what he sees. And what he sees is a place extremely beautiful. This is the Zhuangyan. Right? We've been working on this word Zhuangyan, adorned. What does it mean to be adorned? And this place is the most adorned. But what he sees is all the adornments, and it describes them. It says there are tiles on the walls. There are jewels in every tile. There are lamps in every corner from above and below. There are vistas. You look out through windows to see forever and forever and forever. There are colors just on the paintings that decorated. There are candles. There are offerings everywhere. And each and every surface of all of these adornments, I mean, if you can look behind me, right? What have I got? Here's water. Here's some crackers. Here's flowers. Here's a lamp, right? There's images. There are bodhisattvas. There are huntsman spiders. Never mind. There are all kinds of adornments here. And so in Maitreya's palace, Sudana sees each and every one of these, and because it's the Avatamsaka state, each and every one of these is alive and interactive. It's like a kiosk where the pictures keep changing, and each one of them shows you is a gateway into infinite Dharma realms, each of which has a picture, each of which has a living Sudana in the palace. And here's the key. In each and every one of those adornments is a story being told about how once upon a time Maitreya Bodhisattva, in his cultivation of the Bodhisattva path, gave up his body to save someone, or at huge risk spoke Dharma to save someone, or took himself out to some distant journey, some distant place, in order to learn the Dharma that would cross that person over. And he's seeing at the same moment all of these stories being told. Each and every adornment tells a story of Maitreya in the past, in a certain lifetime, in a certain place, doing something to save living beings at great cost to himself. Because why? It's his cultivation of the Bodhisattva path. That is currently showing on the walls, on the lamps, on the paintings, in the air of the jewel palace of Maitreya, Vairochana's Bauloka, Pilujana Bauloka. And as it says, they open up the way Avatamsaka things always do. They're like a dust mote with infinite numbers of Buddhas in each one, and each and every Buddha is in a Buddha land with infinite numbers of dust motes, and it goes boom, 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 like that. So this is what Sudana sees when Maitreya goes snap, like that. So it's exactly this number 20. It's a collection of Mahayana deeds, right? That's what's going on, is all those stories are still being told. Now, people who say, oh, the Avatamsaka Sutra is just, Buddhist philosophy, like, tell me about your Buddhist philosophy. What I hear is somebody, giving up their head in order to rescue someone else, giving their body when nothing else would do in order to save somebody else. Just like that sutra story. So, wow, it's flesh and blood and sweat and tears and overcoming challenges and not quitting and vigor and patience, and under insult and duress and pain, the Bodhisattva keeps going because he is no longer bound by ego and trying to win, trying to score for himself or herself. That's the difference. And so this last verse, this last line, totally makes sense in that regard. He engages with Buddha's explanations of success in bringing together the deeds of cultivation of the great vehicle, which allowed bodhisattvas to master them beyond measuring. Right, just like that. Now, where do we find that? Well, two places that I know, actually three, but I can recommend two. One is D.T. Suzuki Daisetsu, who was one of the earliest commentators on Buddhism available in English. He has his Chan and Zen teachings. No. What's Suzuki's book's name? Anybody got a bibliography there? Suzuki had like 3 volumes, 1, 2, 3 of Zen. It used to be the best one out there, available through the 50s and 60s. It's not Chan and Zen teachings, that's Charles Luke. D.T. Suzuki's Zen Buddhism. In one of those, he has a translation of Entering the Dharma Realm, the Maitreya encounter. He just took that one piece of chapter 39 and put it into English. And he did a really, really good job of translating it. I mean, you read it and you just, it takes your breath away, the beauty of it. The other place would be our translation of Entering the Dharma Realm, Ru Fa Jiepin, chapter 39, which is currently, happily, being retranslated by David Rounds, by Eric Wong, and the group that meets at Tathagata Monastery. Who else is in that group? Jin Chuan Shi, do you know? David knows.
Jin Yong Sure is the leader, and then a whole bunch of different people come at different times. Fed has been coming a lot.
Great.
A guy named Aaron, who I don't really know, and several other people who I don't really know who they are, except they're my colleagues in translating.
Does anybody join online, David?
Yes.
That's great. We just had the cloud cross over the sun here, so So suddenly the light changed in the room. So anyway, that is, I don't know if people know, our Avatamsaka Sutra translation project is progressing on 3 fronts at once right now. One group is the one we just mentioned. It's focused on the men's side at CTB, Tathagata Monastery. Another group is on the women's side in particular, translating the 10 Transferences chapter. And a third group is our plenary group that began on page 1 and is still on chapter 1, but it's a long chapter. And we're making dogged progress, by golly. And tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning from here, Monday morning in California, we will be meeting again. And because of this same wonderful software package called GoToMeeting, we're able to open it up. Currently, in our plenary group, we have people online from Hong Kong, Taiwan, Oregon, where else? Berkeley, Oakland, around Ukiah, people who don't want to get in a car and drive over to the city, joining in. So it's we're defying common knowledge, which is that common knowledge holds that you can't translate by committee. And we're disproving that. We're proving that it can be done. In fact, it's really way more fun to do it in a team. So, good stuff. Can we do, let's see, we have time to do one more before we're done. One more sentence. We're getting a summary here. Here we go. 此菩萨作是念，如是无量如来境界，乃至于百千亿哪有他劫，不能得知。我喜应以无功用，无分别心，成就圆满。The Bodhisattva makes the following reflections. I should now bring such limitless states of a thus come on to perfection, using a mind state free of deliberate effort and discrimination, a state which could not be known in 100,000 kotis of nayutas of eons. Oh boy. We're about to enter another realm of Bodhisattva's wisdom, which, let me preview it, describe it. It's called Wu Gong Yong Heng. I'm going to write it down here. This is the real substance of the 7th ground, and it arises from the 6th. Here's the Chinese. Wu Gong Yong Xin. It's fascinating because it defies science. Wu. Oh, stop that. There we go. Wu Gong Yong Heng Xing Xing Heng. There it is. It's practices which have no gong yong, whatever that is. So no gong yong practices, or practices without XX, gong yong. Now, the trick is, what is that? This particular state is the real substance of our next couple months looking at this. And it's important, I think, to understand where this came from so that we can appreciate what's going on. The reason why the Bodhisattva said, I'm going to bring those Buddha's states to perfection, the 20 we just found, the Ru. Why is it Ru? It's because the Bodhisattva has not mastered them yet. He is now, you could say, entering them. No, he's bit by bit developing them, embodying them, learning to approach them, engaging with them, right? He's getting them bit by bit, because why? They're Buddha's states. He is not a Buddha yet. I should now bring such limitless states of a Buddha to perfection, because I haven't done it yet. Now, key, using a mind state, here's my attempt, free of deliberate effort and discrimination. There it is. A state which couldn't be known for a very long period of time. Known by whom? Known by conscious mind. Why? Because it arises from wisdom. This is a state that comes out of the samadhi that the bodhisattva is able to master at this level. If you will recall, back on the sixth ground that we just finished, the bodhisattva began to have the use of two kinds of wisdom, free of deliberate effort and discrimination. The bodhisattva was able to use two levels of truth on that sixth ground. He could both use conscious discrimination, and also he could use integrative wisdom that puts pieces back together instead of cutting them apart. Mostly our discriminating mind identifies things by reductionism. If you can know the smallest, you know the biggest. That's one scientific standard trope, right? If you can name the smallest one, piece, atoms, elements, quarks, whatever, you can then see how they come together and become the biggest pieces. Well, that's one method. It's consciousness used well, right? And you use tools to do that, microscopes, telescopes, etc. But you can go the other direction, which is making consciousness like a mirror, which instead of cutting into smaller pieces, funbie, it brings them together into Dayuan Jingzhi, the wisdom that is just like a huge mirror, and it reflects perfectly, accurately things as they are without discrimination. Two different functions. On the sixth ground, the bodhisattva got that. He could, at that point, remember the dualities? Even though something, still the bodhisattva, right? Even though he knows that the Buddha's voices are impossible to hear, still he's able to make all the sounds of Buddha's voices. Even though he knows that living beings won't wake up, he's going to wake up every living being. That kind of impossible language, that's because the bodhisattva's mind now functions at two different levels. Okay, from there, what happens when you have already emptied out the self and emptied out dharmas, and you still have to get busy rescuing living beings in ways that work? Well, one thing that happens is you learn fangbian zhihui, expedient wisdom. And that was the key in the last couple lectures. You learn these expedients. You can bring about different bodies now. Transformations are possible for you. And now we're getting into a realm of neuroscience, Bodhisattva's neurobiology, which is you can practice things that have no gongyong. That's hard to translate. Maybe we can ask David if he's run into that. But what is gongyong? It's deliberate effort. If you do wugongyong, you do it without formulating the idea first. You don't plan it out. It occurs, you could say spontaneously, but it's much more by reflection. And the amazing thing is, it's completely normal, natural, in the very, very healthy human mind. That is to say, the human mind that has reached this level of function. So how do we translate this? This is seventh stage bodhisattva stuff. He is now able to do this as needed, when needed, by reflection almost. Because why? He perceives living beings need this teaching. And so he acts a lot. Bodhisattva is super busy, but it's not with he doesn't sit down and think it over first. Right? Does that make sense? Wugong Yong Hung. David, do you have a translation for Wugong Yong Hung? Right on the tip of your fingers there?
We have not run into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have using a mind state free of deliberate effort and discrimination. So what's fascinating is, what's the implications in terms of karma here? If your action is done by reflection almost, done so fast, because you're right, your wisdom now gets living beings' needs and can do exactly the right thing at the right time, because why? There's nobody there. It's expedient, and yet it's still being done. You know, this is a mind boggler, isn't it? This is where we are. This is the state of the seventh stage bodhisattva. What kind of karma is accrued by almost like one of your agents who go out to do this for you somehow? Funny, huh? So this is very wonderful stuff that we're into. And, you know, who was that masked bodhisattva? It was Guan Yin's transformation body number 1307. No, 1304, 8. All these bodhisattva bodies go out to act without doing anything. It's action that has no gong-yong. It's going to be hard to translate, even harder to grasp, right? But it's a mind state free of deliberate effort and discrimination. So that's coming up. This is previews of coming attractions. I'm fascinated by this because it's, I think from the point of view of the sutra, this is absolutely as, what do you say, as clinical a description as saying that the cold germs caused the sniffles. You know, it's still, this is textbook description. It's not fantasy, it's not wish, it's not fiction. It's the Avatamsaka Sutra saying, yeah, at this stage, this happens. However, it's not a free lunch. As we're going to find out, the Bodhisattva still has to make decisions. They still have to cultivate, they have to follow the precepts. But your mind, when it's at this level, operates like a mirror, and it can start to function like a mirror. At the sixth ground, the Bodhisattva had to deal with emptiness. He or she had to be so stable in their grounding in precepts that seeing through things didn't freak them out. And it took a while for them to get used to that. Now they can start to appreciate how it works when their vows want them to rescue a living being. Very cool. Okay. Gee whiz. Let's do this. Let's transfer the merit first and then get on with some of our other things we need to talk about before we're done. Let me see. Here's dedication of merit. And notice on this one, I've stopped making dispel the darkness. I used to have that in red. So we've got two new changes here. May our minds awake. And instead of break the darkness, dispel the darkness. I'm playing my 1935 venerable guitar, which has not been tuned for a short time. Bear with me here. Talk about a transformation body. This guitar is made up of many other guitars. This is a collected guitar. There's only 2 or 3 pieces currently on it that it came with at the start.
Master, is this a
Yes, David.
Is what you're doing now Tiaofu?
Taming and subduing.
Yeah.
I am Tiaoxuan. I am definitely taming and subduing. Indeed. So some good friends of ours up in Brisbane have a shop called Guitar Repairers, and it's John and his young men. It's actually secretly it's a Luthery school, teaching people how to make stringed instruments of all kinds, and also how to deal with all the other issues such as doing business and doing repairs and dealing with customers and all, which is a large part of being a workman, a craftsman. But John found this vintage parlor guitar and rebuilt it, and every piece of it is, I think, the top, the sides, he patched cracks, he, shaped the neck, and then repaired the tuners in front of my eyes, replaced new tuners on it. And it's just this little old guy. It was probably probably came from Sears back in 1935. But it has been down the road and around the block a couple times, and it's still making beautiful music. So I'm happy to keep it alive and in the world and humming, bringing joy to living beings. So let's make a wish for goodness, and however you can imagine that, transfer the merit. Here we go. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find giving unity, they are minds away to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. Let that chord hang. There we go. May kindness find reward. May all sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and one. May all become compassionate and one. All right, thank you, Mr. Grandpa Guitar. Now, things that I want to talk about, and maybe the monks there will be ready to chip in with things that need to be discussed. It's we've been told by Locke that there are 30 folks joining us online. I think that's a new record. Why are so many people joining us online? I think it's a better online experience than even in person. Because if you're used to seeing somebody come over your computer screen, then it's not different. To sit in the Buddha hall and have me come over a picture tube is kind of weird. Not very satisfying, but it's going to be in 2 short months, I'll be back. Way quicker than one would think. And I'm checking on my spider Bodhisattva Dharma protector. I've got a large huntsman spider up there looking over my shoulder. So what's going on? my Bonn class has finished. I've finished teaching at Bonn University, and there's one more set of exams coming back. The exams have been issued and students are writing on them. Once those are graded, with my colleague Ian Johnson, we're done. That's good. That means I get to go back to my original task, which was editing the journal, the journals of Three Steps, One Bow, which have been waiting for 30 plus years for us to get serious about it. And I've got Marty's, Professor Verhoeven's final journal under my fingers, and I had to set it aside during the teaching phase, but now I'm back, so I can work on that and hope to have something readable before too long. Item number 2 is that Ted Berger, Edward A. Berger, Ted Berger, the filmmaker, amongst White Clouds, among others, has done another cut, that's to say, another edition of One Mind. One Mind is his documentary of life in a Zen Chan monastery. And he picked the, in China right this minute, one of the most vigorous and, what do you say, one of the most classically old school, old time, conservative, standard Chan monasteries in China, Zhenru Si, Yinju Shan Zhenru Si, which is where, if anybody knows our particular history, Master Empty Cloud, Master Shuyan, ended his 120-year-old life at Zhenru Si for, well, that sounds wrong. He spent his final years at Zhenru Si. And we've been there multiple occasions, know the current abbot, Master Chunwan Daheshang. And so Ted Berger has amazing affinities with the Dharma and with that place that he took his camera and his microphone and got permission to spend hours and days inside of Zhenru Si, documenting the lives of the monks, even in the Chan Hall. And as far as we know, that has never been done before. There haven't been pictures of the monks going through their zazen, their meditation, plus all of the lives that circle around the Chan Hall. And Zhenru Si, as we saw there, is built that way, which is kind of the elite core of meditators are the beating heart of the monastery. There are, we saw, 20 plus, but at different times, there's different numbers of monks who essentially don't leave the Chan Hall. On Sunday, they get out like 4 hours to go outside to do whatever they need to do, wash their clothes or take a walk or something. The rest of the time, they are sitting, walking. All the other activities of the monastery, from the growing food to the cooking of the food to the cutting of the bamboo that goes into the stove to cook the food and heat the tea, and all of the farming and maintenance and liberating life and ceremonies are done to support the Chan Hall. And Ted got pictures of all of it. And he made this movie called One Mind. And he's at the very, very last stages of it. It's been on a Indiegogo campaign for funding, and we've supported it. And anyway, I showed it. Ted sent out access to the latest incarnation of this film. It's not ready for release yet, but he wanted people to give feedback, and it's just great. Boy, showed it last night here to our assembly, and everybody was just smacked by how extraordinary this film is. If anybody has seen the film called Into Great Silence, has anyone seen that film? It's about a Carthusian monastery high in the French Alps, I believe, or at the border of France and Italy. It's the, I forgot the name of the monastery, but it's a monastery where all the monks are silent full time. It's called Into Great Silence. It's 4 hours long. And you just see the hallways, you know. There's somebody walks down the hallway and, oh, something happened, you know. It's really silent. And it's a great film because it shows you the snowfall and the icicles drip. There's a dripping icicle. Whoa, you know. And it shows you like the family comes to say goodbye to their son, and it's touching. And then the son is in there, you know, his heart is broken because he's had to say goodbye, you know. So it's to integrate silence. It's a wonderful film, and if anybody gets a chance to see it, do make sure you do, because it's absolutely unprecedented to be able to see that. Well, One Mind is a rival for that. It's on a par with that film, only it's our team. That's the exciting thing. And they do their ceremonies, and what are they doing? They're going, Namo Doba Rulai, Namo Bao Sheng Rulai, Namo Miao Sheng Rulai, Namo Guang Sheng Rulai, Namo Libu Wei Rulai, Namo Guan Rang Rulai, Namo Amito Rulai, Namo Doba. It's exactly like our Mongshan. And then, you know, here's the monk going, chong, 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 chong. The way we do it exactly. And then there's it's like exactly us. It's our school. Because why? It's our school. Master Shuyan was there, Shifu was, you know, on down. And so Ted's camera is this steady presence. It's a serene eye watching these things happen. It doesn't move a lot. And you see a spider weaving his web in the forest, and you see the sun breaking into the courtyard over the eaves. And it's just, you know, it's done with so much respect and appreciation. And it's just amazing that he got permission to go there, and he did it so well. And another big part of the film is the sound design. Ted got a man named Quinn in Syracuse, who is one of the world's finest sound engineers, to design the sound. And so the soundscape of this film is just a whole treat all by itself. Just amazing, you know. So we watched it again last night, and we really need to promote this film when it comes out. Films have a very short life. They go whoop, whoop, and they're gone, 90% of them. You know, 1 out of 10 gets somebody's eye. And the whole trick seems to be recommendations. If somebody whose voice is known says, watch this one, that it goes and doesn't die quite so fast. This film deserves to be seen because it's totally unprecedented. Nobody's ever seen what this film shows. And it's done very beautifully. So that was great. That's one. Number two, my other one is a funny story that happened just yesterday. Do you all recall my story about the adolescent butcher bird who learned how to be a butcher bird by watching Mom? The ugly duckling, butcher bird, adolescent female. Did you all see her? I had about like eight photos. Maybe not. Nobody's saying yet. So let's see here, just for fun. If I can find it quickly. I know our time's running out here. I posted them on Facebook, which is the fastest way to get there. Let's see here. Photos, here we go. So here was our adolescent butcher bird. And she showed up with her mom and an uncle, actually two uncles here. And here we go. How to Be a Butcher Bird, it was called. And here she is. This is an ugly duckling adolescent teenage butcher bird, gets a bird lesson from her mom. And she was really, you know, struggling with adolescence. She's not beautiful, right? Can you see her? And her mom was patiently showing her how to do it, because Mom is a beautiful adult female who's, you know, totally sudzai in the world of butcher birds. And her daughter was watching her every move and imitating her, right? This is really, that captures it, right? Like, what? How do you do that? Do that again. So, mom shows her how to, eat a cracker and stuff like that. And the baby is like, oh, this is not so easy. Anyway, so the butcher birds are pretty, here. Oh no. So it's hard being a kid in any world, whether you're a human or whatever. So yesterday after lunch, Sam Ong and I came out and we're heading back, and there was a big clock, clock, clock overhead, and I looked up, and here was this elegant young bird looking down at me, just about 2 feet over my head, and clearly she had eyes for me. She was like looking like that, and Sam goes, "Oh, that's the butcher bird." And I looked, and sure enough, this ugly duckling had transformed into this clean and very energetic and capable bird. And it was the girl. It was the little girl butcher bird who was, wanting to communicate with me. And it was no doubt. We were going, whoa, he said, "She's looking at you." And she was. She's just there smiling, and it was like, "Hi, remember me? What have you got? Got anything more?" And so the funny part was, just as she was looking at me, this bee flew by, and she turned around and went, "Gah!" and gobbled down the bee. And both Sam and I are watching. They go, "Oh, no, God," because the bee flew too close. And the butcher bird just pulled it out of space. Oh, chomp, 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 chomp. Okay, go. "By the way, how are you? Tell me what's new." And it's like she interrupted our conversation to grab an insect and swallow it down. A large, oh my Lord, that's what butcher birds do. But the fun part was that those photos were taken probably 6 weeks ago, and she remembered. And she had picked me out, and we were in another part of the campus entirely. And she picked me out to say hi. And so if you want to be remembered by a butcher bird, make sure you feed them the right stuff at the right time. So how fun. Okay, so what have you got for announcements? Jin Chuan and Jin He, Jin Fo, Jin Xian, David, anybody?
Heng Sure, so because there was quite a lot about Sudana today, youth Sudana, even for Ted's film. So the first retreat that we're going to have this summer at the Sudana Center by Che Fasher and Doug Powers is actually on Sudana's journey. And Jin Chuan should just send you an email that has a poster on the retreat. So I'm not sure if you wanted to show it online.
I will find it. Right, here we go.
So it will be last week of May into the first week of June.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. You should have it the first. There you go. There you go.
I need to download it here.
Let's see. You can just see it. Yep.
Wait a sec. Okay, here we go. Here it is.
You can see it's a connected dot journey. And you count the dots, how many dots are there?
Okay. All the way to Buddhahood. Connect the dots to Buddhahood. Here it is. Nice. May 28th to June 4th. 225 South Hope Street. Cool. DRBU. All right.
So yes, so that's happening on and then last week of May. And if people are interested, you can talk with Jing He Sure and myself. The thing to be aware of, though, is that it's our first retreat. So we're actually not making it like a really big public event, more for people who are somewhat familiar with us, that also will be willing to kind of help out and chip in, kind of like Buddha Root Farm, and making the place usable in the future, because it's still being, you could say, upgraded and maintained, because it hasn't been really used for a number of years, for like 6 years. That's what Alan says. So it should be a great opportunity, or breaking it in, basically. This is the pioneer group, first retreat at Sudana Center. So that's one. The other thing we have is our website. You go to summer retreats. It's a second tab. The next tab. On top, home retreats and summer retreat. It's a summer retreat.
Oh, okay. Wait. What is that now? Home?
So top, no. Go back to the top there. Yeah. On the right, it says summer retreat. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that was the previous image at Sudana Center. Now there's another one. And we actually just got a new Sudana image. I think somebody had a Sudana image made, so now we have a Sudana image there too. Yeah, Annie had it made.
Great.
So a huge Sudana image.
It's so good that it's not a baby.
It's not a baby. Yeah.
Yeah, most people think of Sudana as a baby.
So, yep. And then otherwise, we have the bowing session coming up next week, starting on April 15th at the City 10,000 Buddhas, Wan Fo Bao Chan. So people are welcome to join that. Otherwise, we just have our normal schedule. Oh, Angelo, you have a mic next to Yuan. The what? Ajahn Pasano? Oh yeah, Ajahn Pasano will be speaking also at Sudana Center on April 11th, this Monday, starting at 7:45. And so if you're interested, please go to drbu.org website. I'm sure there's details there. So Ajahn Pasano will be speaking at the Sudana Center as well.
Okay, what time is that?
7:45 it will start.
7:45.
Yeah. Come a little bit early so we can just start right at 7:45.
Okay, great. Yeah. And what about this one here? Oops, wait a sec. What about that one?
Buddha Farm? Anybody? Okay.
So there's going to be a poster coming out soon for Buddha Farm to announce that we are receiving applicants. And I
hit the blue button right here, apply here. Notice it's oregon.berkeleymonastery.org. Okay. That's it, eh?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, we've already, a notice here says it is raining. Is it raining outside in Berkeley tonight?
Jing Forsher wanted to make, yes, it is raining, but Jing Forsher wanted to make an announcement just to say that the Jing Forsher and Jing Hesher will be going to Gold Mountain Monastery tomorrow to transmit the precepts and 3 refuges.
Super.
So.
Okay, hey, that's great. They never invited me. They invited you guys. You guys pay attention to that. You have grand fun. Trailblazing, going over to Gold Mountain. That's good.
Chinese and Cantonese.
Yeah, Jin Hesher is going to have to exercise his Cantonese, I'm afraid. Okay, please bow with everyone. Lead us in bowing, and we'll see you all next week. Amitofo. Work on your Wu Gong Yong Hung, okay?
Amitofo.